baggage fees, taxis, hotels, tolls, and parking, just as long as the receipts are attached. If you have the $50 cell phone allowance and $30 internet allowance per month, we will use the expense voucher to claim that. Very important that if you're typing in to put your name, you have to go by your signature at the bottom. Kind of hold up the process if you don't know whose voucher belongs. If you're going to write on your voucher instead of typing, if you have the allowance. Because I have received a voucher before where it was just a signature at the bottom, and it's back there for a while until somebody called and said, I haven't been paid. Like, we did our due diligence to see where it came from, but so make sure your name is legible and at the top of your voucher as well as signed.
We process expenses twice a week, so there's no reason that you shouldn't have your check or your deposit within a week. If you don't have it, then you just need to call and see what the issue is.
With that being said, that turnaround time is from when it hits the accounting department too. So if you turn it into your supervisor, whether it be the department head or sometimes to the people out in the field, it's the district director, if it sits on their desk before it's approved and then it's sent in, that's where most of the lag comes from. Once it gets to accounting, that turnaround time is very quick. So the first place to check is to see if it left the office, if it was approved. Once it's approved by your department head, it goes upstairs to be signed, and then it comes back to the emergency process. So make sure it's signed, because if you don't have your signature, we can't process it. Did you guys have any questions over anything? Hi. Some of you know me. Some of you have given me money, I'm certain.
I'm Barbara Whitesback. I work in the communications department, which is on the 8th floor. And the thing I do for these sessions is that I kind of introduce people to each other. And one of the ways to do that is to try to have you tell us something that all of you will recall when you see that person. You may not immediately remember their name, but you'll remember the story that they told at this session. So I'm going to ask you a question and ask you to answer it, and I'll do that first so that, I'll embarrass myself before we have to do that. So the question I'm going to ask you is, what is the weirdest food or the weirdest thing that you've ever eaten? And I know this story is going to give us a really good story. And here's my story. I was a pathetic little kid, really pathetic. I kept my thumb until I was 10, which was really embarrassing at school. I sort of had to hide on the playground behind this little brick wall, and I sit back there and set my thumb until I was 10, really. And so what was really bad about that is I knew to set my thumb in difficult circumstances, like when I was playing in a sandbox. So the weirdest thing I've ever eaten is sand. And you know how profoundly I needed to suck my thumb if I was willing to suck it when it was covered with sand. Okay, so how about you?
Like thinking in my head.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'll start with Sabrina because I know she has a good story.
I don't really know my story. I grew up with my boyfriend. I don't see kids with that. It's something that we don't do on a regular basis. They walk and go back and practice. We go, oh, Jesus. Oh my God, what is this? And some of that is make fish. We don't play fish. So I don't really know what is the weirdest thing. I guess I was one time a guest at a meeting. It's Right, that it's really, you don't. So, I think that's one of the biggest things I don't do.
That is a very good
I would say.
Like chicken.
A little nutty.
Oil does taste different from other, it is different from chicken, naturally, even when you fry it. That's number 4. My father shot squirrels. All right. Anthony, did they call you Anthony or Tony? Okay.
So yeah, I was on a road trip with some different baseball stadiums, and one of the stadiums had a vending machine with old baseball cards. They had packs of cards from like the late 80s, early 90s. It was right in the heyday of my collecting. So for nostalgic sake, I bought a pack of 25-year-old cards, and it still had the stick of gum. And so on a dare for my friends, I decided to try the, let's say, 25-year-old stick of gum.
And was it really crispy?
It kind of disintegrated as soon. It was very hot, like it crumbly. So I'm not sort of disintegrated.
It didn't have any kind of decent flavor. Did it
It's
taste
a
like
little sweet, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Sean.
I remember those. So I grew up in Houston, Texas. Actually, to bring my past life in connection with my current life, that Lyondell plant where the workers are striking was one of the first locations on site that I traveled for my job when I lived in Houston. So kind of brings my worlds together a little bit. So I grew up in Houston. One of my favorite foods is crawfish. I love crawfish. I love popping them open, eating the meat, and I do suck the head because that's where all the flavor kind of sits. But I mean, the best is I went to a festival and they had alligator on the stick.
Oh,
And alligator is really nice. If it's done well, it's really nice. Alligator and frog legs are really good. So if you get a chance, the frog legs are a little swampy tasting, so you have to get past that. But I really enjoy it.
Is the alligator really tender when you?
It is. Yeah, alligator. Usually when it's on a stick, it's the tail.
Oh.
And it's very chicken with a little grass. I mean, think of your smoothie, and then think of your smoothie with like some lemongrass in it or some kale, and that's kind of what it tastes like. It's good.
It depends on what cut you get.
Yeah.
Some are chewier than others.
It's a big animal.
Yeah. They serve it everywhere in Florida.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
I
okay.
lived in Florida, that was like a big thing on the menu, Gator bites.
Huge bites.
That was your appetizer.
Great, Brittany.
I'm Brittany. And growing up, I actually grew up in Pittsburgh. Traveled quite a bit, but growing up in Pittsburgh, I actually went to the medical school program at Fort Hill. It's Linden Elementary. My daughter's actually going into the medical school program next year. She'll be 5 in March. And the one that I'm excited about, actually just retired 2 years ago, and I begged her to stay at Linden because I love her so much. And out of all my experiences through school, even at our alma mater, Robert Worth, she's the one teacher that I remember most. She was a really good woman. And her name was Mrs. Dubois. She traveled the world. She's a Creole woman, gorgeous, gorgeous woman. Loving, caring, doting, but also persistent. There was no cutting up in her class. Everyone knew it. But she was a woman of the world. She traveled everywhere. She brought postcards from everywhere. She brought photographs from everywhere. She could take us places in our own imaginations that we couldn't fathom. We came into adulthood and actually had the opportunity to travel. But one of the things she always did was we have these international days, these multicultural days, and she would bring everything. She's the reason I know how to use chopsticks. I had friends in her class, I had fried rattlesnake in her class. The strangest of all of them that I ever tried was chocolate covered bees. And after like the second one, you know what? We were actually pretty good. Yeah, chocolate covered bees. Chocolate covered bees, chocolate covered ants, chocolate covered beetles.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but we were, I had some second and third grade, so we were all over there. First, like, and it's like, once one person tries to do it, I'm no wuss. I want to try one too. And yeah, we ate everything. Had my first cosmology in that class, had my first everything in that class. A lot of it she prepared, some of her friends, like I said, she was an incredibly diverse woman. So I wish she would stay.
So what does the chocolate covered bean taste like?
It tastes pretty crunchy, actually. Like I remember the texture being primarily crunchy. Like I could taste the chocolate, but after the chocolate taste, there wasn't really much to it except for like this crunchy flavor. Because I think they probably put it in honey first and then poured chocolate out with it to try to make it something that it wasn't. But it had like dirt to it. Like, yeah, it wasn't like it was like popping like one of those like berry snacks in your mouth. It was like you actually had to chew for a while. You had a couple, so that was kind of cool. It's like like you remember filling up on these chocolate covered ants and beetles. It's gross, but it's protein. I mean, I guess that's how she felt about it.
I think the grossest thing I ever ate, you probably like it, was chitlins. They're not clean.
I have to like chitlins. I hate chitlins. I hate the smell of chitlins. I hate everything about chitlins. That was like the first time my grandma made me clean chitlins. It was like the most disgusting thing I'd ever
My dad
done.
I'll go gross. They smell just like what they are.
That's a common misconception too, because between generations, like my dad, he was born in 1948 in South Carolina. He does like chitlins. My grandmother likes chitlins. None of his kids like chitlins. None of my cousins like chitlins.
I used to work retail downtown, and the girls used to bring them in every holiday.
Oh, here.
And some people know how to clean them, and some people
People don't.
They don't need to dump one.
Don't
because
because
it's bad.
Yeah.
Because they're just intestines, and you have to clean them out. If you don't get all that out, it's bad.
See, for,
And I didn't like it. I only ever ate one,
oh,
and I was done. But my dad grew up on a farm, and my grandmother made them, and he was like, "Oh, they're so good." So I figured I'd try one, and I was like,
He's 30 years for the country. He likes chitlins. So my dad had conversations about it, and I'm like, okay, kid, he lives on a dairy farm. Yes,
"Yeah,
they
you ate
ate
everything."
cow for slaughter. They ate everything. They fixed everything.
And they
ate everything.
smell like that.
He couldn't really give you a makeup chitlins. Or I feel like that.
Mine's not gonna be that like.
Well, I didn't want to offend the people that didn't want that in for their dish. So I couldn't try it.
This is not exciting, but I'm just like stuck with the coworkers that I go to your kids all the time, and she would be mad to bring like something like, it's not. And I think I recall some seaweed, like seaweed shit or seaweed come down here, so I was saying, I'm thinking that.
Is it a city tip or something?
See,
I probably see
I think it was seaweed, but. Well, that's what's
And the nori is good. On rice
Yeah,
and everything, that's good.
The nori stuff they roll with,
Yeah. That's really
the sushi.
But if you have like, I know
It was
kind of
like in
seaweed,
a-
I know the folded, yeah,
Like a chip ball.
Yes, yeah, it was, I mean,
no, I know what you're talking about, and it's not very good like, on it.
it had a,
It's not very good on it. I was,
Garlic on it.
yeah, you have to.
All right, Carolyn, do you want to tell the crowd and reveal the story?
I do, but before I do that, I want to introduce Michelle Ivey, who is with us from District 11.
oh, okay.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. And Michelle says that I asked her to say something, and she said, "My name is Michelle Ivey. I live in Minnesota."
Yeah.
She lives in Minnesota. and maybe she's gonna send me something about her food. I haven't heard yet back on that. So, remember that Michelle is with us from District 11. I guess my food, well, here's one. I had just gotten to Brazil, for Peace Corps, and I was living up in a slum with 11 sticks houses and like that. And I was invited to somebody's house to eat, and appeared this thing that I was scared to eat because I couldn't tell what it was. I later found out it was, well, they called it sarapatel, which I later found out is chicken. But to my luck, there were chickens running around all over under the table. So I was, very easily. Well, later on, I found out what it was. It was quite delicious.
Did you like it?
I couldn't get my mind beyond what it was.
It was, yeah.
Well, they're kind of okay.
Yeah.
It
Well,
takes a lot to get them clean.
Michelle has yet, oh, wait, here comes something from Michelle. Sardines, pickled herring, lutefisk, the latter is
Oh.
yucky.
Horrible.
All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Ice cream soda.
No.
Minnesota.
I've had a single thing.
All right, I'm gonna go to RJ and have him introduce himself to you, because you probably don't know RJ.
I know some of you, but I am RJ. I work in communications with Bart on the 8th floor. I've been here 3 years, so I'm relatively new. And you want me to talk about something weird that I do? And I also serve as the sort of the communications coordinator for the local. So if you ever need to communicate anything, or you have any questions about something that's going on in the local, you can come to me, and I can find someone else who can answer your question. And so the weirdest thing I've ever eaten, I grew up, one of my closest friends growing up was, his parents were Scottish.
Oh, no.
Oh
my God.
Every big family gathering, they would serve haggis, which is served in the stomach of an animal. I'm not sure which animal, a sheep, or is it a sheep? So, yeah. And yeah, you couldn't be rude and say no thank you, so I would take a few bites each time.
You just eat the mixture inside, isn't it better than a part of that?
Yeah, but the whole thing was just not appetizing in any way. So I don't recommend haggis. No offense to any Scottish people.
You guys wanna introduce yourself?
My name's Pam, I work in the education department, treasurer of the location. And we're multicultural, we're my husband. And whatever he feels to eat, because I like what the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten is bear. And you have to cook it for 2 days, because they thought what bear eat, they eat garbage. So, I mean, and it's full of fat. You cook bear, you cook it for 2 days, and it just keeps letting go of grease and letting go of grease. But I don't care how long you cook it, it's disgusting. The fact that we ate bear, that eats garbage, he's not allowed to have bear anymore. We'll have none of that in our house.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah. It was not very good.
Up north. You know, we live in Grove City. So, I mean, he's up in St. Mary's, that area. There are bears.
Where is that?
Mhm.
You just gotta run that little bit.
We have a wall there. Correct. And we did, because, if that's a trophy. So,
Yeah.
if you come to my house and you come in my living room, we have no way getting it. Because we have, I don't know, 8 deer heads, a coyote skin, a bear skin, an antelope
So
head.
you gotta start buying some trees and make it like an outdoor scene.
We put an addition on it to keep that out of wall space.
I'm John Leslie. I work in the education department along with Pam. I don't hold an office in the local. I'm attempting to do something with bylaws. If you're looking for a committee, join us. Strangest thing I've ever eaten in Chicago, I once had duck's bullets, also known as chardina, if you're of the Polish persuasion. But when you're with a guy whose last name is Sedlowski in the south side of Polish, that's in the south side of Chicago, that's what you gotta have.
Sebasti, you were hanging out with the opposition, huh? Oh, nice. Okay, thank you guys for the stories.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you to Carolyn. I think I'm gonna have to run because I'm doing oil stuff.
Yeah, today, it turns out to be a really intense day for most of us here because of the oil strike. That's all, oil strike. One last 35 years.
I think on something, and let's just say the social media, well, at least from the sites that I saw, was good. I couldn't believe it. I was like so happy. I was liking everyone's posts. They were like, this is good. We need it. Because it's really nice, actually, from my usual temperament of having to dispel and educate people on the different groups. Not okay, maybe people don't really.
Is everybody on Facebook? So people are coming in and out. Not everybody's supposed to be here here. With that though, we do have our education department representative, John Letley, who's now going to take us through some union education. Now we have Ivy on the live stream over there, John. I don't know if we can move that.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Yeah, just go. We generally don't take a break in this because our time is so limited. So if it's just a down straight down, straight down,
So I'm on to what, 11?
you're on till 11:15, 11, you have an
How long y'all been sitting down?
hour.
Make that sound like a bad.
You have an hour and 15.
Okay. How long y'all been sitting down? All right, stand up for a second. Don't worry, we're not gonna sing hands or sing Kumbaya. Stretch out, get those blood cells moving. I'm gonna ask you all a question. I'm very guilty of this too, but your iPhones, I know they're part of us. I'm attached to it.
Excuse me?
Put them in our pockets. Turn them upside down. I do this, I look at it when I'm teaching sometimes, so I will make an effort to not look at it while I'm actually up here. Okay, here's it. Turn to your right, turn to your right. Pat that person on the back in front of you. Spin around. And then pat that person on the back in front of you. Oh, no, yeah, turn the other way, that's right. Okay. So if you haven't had a pat on the back for all you do, count that as it for the next couple of years. Take a seat.
Ivy, we're patting you too. Don't worry, I'll do that.
So, I work in the education department. Not too long ago, I was in your shoes. I think I came on board around the same time as you and Carolyn. I was a casual in 2010 to about mid-2012. Then I finally hit permanent track in mid-2013. So I just hit my 5-year mark recently. There's light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know what all your statuses are right now. Are you, you're all probationary, so, yeah, you're kind of like Andy Dufresne at the end of Shawshank Redemption, where he's crawling through that tunnel of cracking.
I just said to him, you can be probationary or the first permanent.
Well, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry.
Today is special because, in case you don't notice, things aren't going so well for the labor movement for basically my entire lifetime, and a few more years on top of that. But I think in the education department, we have some really great ideas how to turn that around, and this is part of it, new member orientation. We have hundreds of thousands of members out there, and a lot of people come into steelworker shops every day, and they sign cards, and I will now be a member of this union. And then that's it. Their next contact with the union is when you get their pay stub, and they see that things are taken off. So this is part of an effort across the international to educate not just dues paying members, but educate members about what our union is. So, kind of see this in a broader perspective. I think we have a great workplace here. This is a great place to work, but as we like to say in the education department, a good job isn't donated, it's bargained for. And I think that's what 3657 does for us. Every time a contract comes around and every day when a hot issue comes up, we look out for each other. So that's my preaching for the first part. Do you all have any questions before I go on?
How good are you at bargaining, Bill?
I really haven't been at the tables in about 5 years, so I'll let Pam will take that on.
Why, what's your question about bargaining?
I was just.
It's an incredible experience when you bargain against your bosses and sit across the table from them. Because remember, when we bargained, Bob Roots, Ginger Hartman, Jen Pfeiffer, and Stan Johnson are who we bargained against. That's who we sit at the table with. So it's incredible when you get in there and realize we're bargaining these issues against people who have done this for a living their entire career. Then we have not.
It's an interesting, what did Churchill say about Hitler? It's an enigma wrapped in a riddle, look inside a mystery, something like that. So I want to model for you some of the educational activity that we do with our members, because I think it's good for people who don't only work in oil refineries, and steel mills, and mines, but even in offices and healthcare facilities, because we are everybody's union, cradle to grave. We represent people in every sector of the economy. But I want to ask you two questions. I just want to ask you a question here. There's two definitions of a union up here on the wall. Could someone read aloud the first one?
Okay, a union is the exclusive bargaining agent for a group of workers for purposes of negotiating and enforcing a collective bargaining.
Someone else read the next one. Aloud.
A grassroots organization based in a workplace that draws its strength from the visible support of its rank and file membership by advocating for social and economic justice for working people.
So there are two definitions of a union here, and we think they're pretty good because we've stolen them from some pretty reputable people. What I'd like you to do is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of you. With the person sitting next to you or in trios, however you like, I want you to come to a consensus. What definition is the most accurate one? Well, take a couple minutes to discuss, and I don't want any bullshit saying, well, it should be this one, but it's really this one. I want an answer. It's got to be one or the other, and we're going to have a discussion block. And based off your experiences, where you worked before, and your experiences now, okay? Just come back together and have a discussion about this in a couple minutes.
And Ivy, you just text me what you think.
And if I've been through this 3 times already, should I participate or?
Yeah.
Sure.
Can I just listen?
Stir the pot.
I think from my perspective, the adjective of being grassroots doesn't, I guess, I don't associate with grassroots. So I think that would be less restrictive. I mean,
And then there are like 1%
But number 2, should be number one. Realistically, right? Number two is just as important as number one. It's just not as visible, not as secure.
Not so much.
Because publicity that normally follows, especially in somewhere like the teacher you can all different ways. And I think that's where number two, I think, it's just that it doesn't. It's normally there, but it's a lot of negative there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look what happened in Michigan.
Yeah, about 2-minute warning, then we'll come back together.
So is it fair to say that we want the union to proceed with them? But they have like number one?
That's okay. I just figured it was just another one more moving around again. It's not big, I was just thinking, maybe like an extra 4 years. Sorry, these next. I'm saying you just moved the thing and I think that's what it is. That was just like, so I just. Adjusting again. It's no worries. I was just, that's why I did face me. I didn't have to.
So the meter is like one.
That's good.
You don't even get a seat if you stand. It's the cheapest one.
Are we good?
We're good.
All right, let's come back together. We all have consensus? Are there spirit fingers like an Occupy? If you went to an Occupy meeting, you'd show consensus by jazz fingers. So, okay, let's hear what you all have to say.
You all want to know? Well, I can say that we unanimously, as I use words that my tongue won't let me say, we kind of think we're closer to one, but we all kind of agree that two also plays a big element as well.
It's like exactly what I said I did want. Okay, let's hear your rationale for that.
Internally, our function is one, right? I mean, as a union, we want to bargain and enforce the bylaws. But what we want the outside world to perceive of us is more of number two.
Okay.
So, our job is number one because we want to advance ourselves, but we want a lot of people to, outside of us, to say, hey, look, we're really advocating for safety.
For all working people.
Right.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Any other thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, my perspective on this is a little skewed because doing labor law, like it's all definition one.
Yeah.
Like I think if you look at the labor movement in the United States, you have some worker centers and some groups that are exclusively number two and don't do one at all.
Okay.
but most of the labor movement in the United States is sort of built around the framework of being the exclusive representative. And while most of those unions that fit definition 1 also should be doing 2, a lot of them don't. So I think you have some groups that do 2 but not 1, but unfortunately a lot of unions that do 1 but not.
Does everyone know what he means by exclusive bargaining agent? We're gonna talk about that in a couple of minutes, but, whether you wanna,
Well, I mean, the framework of the National Labor Relations Act is that if you have a union election, 50% plus 1 of the employees vote to be the union, and the employer has to bargain with that union.
and no one,
Exclusive and only with that union.
no one else can bargain on your behalf. So no kiss asses can try to cut their own deal or anything like that. Well, that still happens in a lot of places, but, one voice for the entire union. So we'll talk about that more. So thank you. Anything else from?
When I see a definition, I think of it as an operational definition, but what's the goal that we want to achieve down the road, and how would that operational definition help or not help the goal? So, when I see 2, I think the benefit of that is that if that is the definition of our union, then that implies that we need to do more education, we need to build a better tech, we need to have more work from bottom up. So I think that impacts the follow-up action that you want this union to be doing. That's how I see it. Okay.
You're from sister.
We're the sisters of
We're
Farrakhan.
number 2. We're like chanting it, we're number 2. Well, I'll give you a little bit of description. Well, I recognize the definition of union in terms of example 1. My heart and my belief of union quality can be expressed. I think it's incredibly important to recognize the assumptions and graduates need to keep it for as long as we've been here. We are constantly working, constantly changing, constantly trying to innovate new ways to give support to the broader base and to the population. So it's really helpful to stand up and do the work for themselves and feel like they're different. So for me, I would much prefer. We know that at the end of the day, after all of the hard work, that we sit down and we have that's the culmination of all of our efforts. But without the original grassroots organization, without that communication, without people rising up to stand together, we'll never get to the end result in the first place.
Number 1 is kind of the concept, and number 2 is actually putting it into place.
Every time I do this, I always say, don't give me this, you got to, but that's what comes out.
Yeah, one more from Michelle Ivy, who first said that I think it's both of them, but you have to choose just one. And then she said, if I have to choose, it's number 1. And I asked her to say why, but I haven't gotten it.
Okay, all right, well, when you get that, let me know. So let's deconstruct these definitions. Number 1, Anthony, you're right. This is legal T. A union is the exclusive bargaining agent. So all of us here, our working conditions, our pay, all that stuff is negotiated for us by 3657, the union that we belong to. Means no one here can go up to the 8th floor or 12th floor and try and cut a side deal or anything like that. It's one voice speaks for all of us, right? No favoritism, no different things being applied to Caroline versus you. We all have one voice and one standard applied to us all. We all clear on that? I'll take the rest of your silence as consent. Okay, all right. So for a group of workers, that's pretty clear. For purposes of negotiating and enforcing a collective bargaining agreement, what's that mean? Okay. We have a contract. How many of you here, I mean, I would say that all of us in here, we're a pretty elite group these days. Why would I say that? Okay, but why is it? Why does that make us elite? Yeah, how many folks, I don't know the numbers, but they're not good. How many people in this country right now have a collective bargaining agreement or a contract? What are we down to? 6.9, 7%?
Well, if you count public employees, that's
12%. Yeah. So that means roughly 80-some% of American workers don't have a contract. They don't have a collective bargaining agreement. Who in our economy does have a contract or has collective bargaining agreements? We do. All steel workers do, but who else in our economy?
Fire, police, EMS.
They're covered by unions, but who else?
Are you just maybe, or, oh, I see where you're
I'm speaking very broadly.
Okay. Teachers,
Okay, so
All individual contracts as well?
there are individual contracts.
oh,
Okay, the assholes who tanked our economy in 2007, 2008. What happened to them? They drive us into a recession. What happens to them? They get richer. Why did they get those bonuses?
There's a contract.
Because they had contracts. All of the major players in our economy today have contracts. CEOs, musicians, entertainers, actors, actresses, they all have contracts. Now, some of them are individual contracts. Working class people, what do we have?
Employment at will. I can let you go without telling you why.
Y'all know what that means? At will employment. You go to work at your will, and you can kick you out at your will too. So I would say that the major players in our economy these days, people with the contracts, and particularly union folks, because that gives us some security, a hell of a lot more than non-union people. We can reasonably think 2 years from now, 3 years from now, if I have a contract, this is what I'm going to be earning. This is what I'll have to pay for my health care and all the others. You've gone over that already.
We went over that, and we can have a response from Michelle.
Okay, so this is from Michelle. Since this is my first time ever being in a union, it's all new to me. My only response is, it's a joint effort as a group to make the union the best it can be, not only for our livelihood, but to make each of us strong. I'd say that's leaning towards number 2. Anything else on this, on that second piece? Does anyone disagree with me? That to have some standing, some security in our economy right now, having a contract is the best way to be. Do contracts just enforce themselves? My colleague, he's not, I don't know if he's here today, Guillermo Perez, he used to be a staff rep for a local in New York. He was dealing with the company one day, and he was going through the contract book, and he was saying, this provision right here, you guys are screwing that up. The dingbats ripped that page out of their contract. And they were saying that since it's not in there, they didn't have to follow it. So what does it take to enforce these contracts? Because I can tell you time and again, they get violated all over the place, don't they? So what does it take? The union. And what definition is that leading more towards? Okay, you're not allowed to say anything more for a few minutes. Okay. So, this is the whole principle of step up, step back. Brittany's been stepping up a lot, so I need the rest of you to, I need Brittany to step back. I need the rest of you to step up and talk. Thank you, Brittany. Okay. Let's deconstruct number 2. You can sit at the table.
I'm not sitting at this table.
Let's deconstruct number 2.
Feelings.
A grassroots organization. What does that mean?
You gotta start somewhere at the base to get where you want to go.
Okay. So it might not have officers or annual elections like we do. Elections are coming up in our union in what? March or April? April. So nothing like that, no officers, no president, it's just a group of people.
They started as that and then they worked their way up to be more organized.
Okay, they to be more organized. All right, we're gonna focus on that. Based in the workplace, what strikes you about that?
So the organization is based around a common workplace, a common employment.
So Americans work our asses off, don't we?
Yeah.
I think I see Pam more weeks, some weeks than I do my wife and kid, actually. No joke. We spend a lot of time where we work. This is where we earn our daily bread, and shouldn't we have jobs with dignity, some safety and some respect while we're doing it? So it's kind of natural, it's based in the workplace. What about this next chunk, though, that draws its strength from the visible support of the rank and file membership? What does that mean?
Good idea. Group as a whole in that workplace, band together, so we think everything's all.
Okay, we come together, but I can think a lot of people saying, I pay my dues. You're supposed to take care of this. You're my steward. You're my local union president. You sit there and negotiate contracts and bang your fist and get those good deals for me. That's your job. What would you say to that?
But you don't have to say it. Everybody does have to say. Make things go not one-sided. You don't want to go there.
Oh, yeah,
But the administration of the council is only as strong as the collective group, right? So if we elect officers, but we're not collectively in band together as an entire group, then what strength does the officers have?
Okay, so we elect our officers, but we have to support them at the same time.
Right.
Okay. Brittany, I really do want to hear you. Please, don't hold back. Or, well,
That's what some of them say, I've seen my views and you don't see what you think of this and this is good and this is great for me. Or I probably went to, there's probably a lot of anger in the cities. But I don't know. It is incredibly important in the states, you strengthen the visible support. People like to intimidate people that they feel. They like to intimidate people that they feel don't have support. Or they like to intimidate people that they feel won't stand up and shout. Or they like to intimidate people that they feel will eventually succumb to everything that they want them to because of the sheer persistence. The importance of visible support is that we need moms and dads and men and women and children and elderly people and people of all ages, all backgrounds, standing up and shouting back and saying, no, you will not intimidate me. You will not make me succumb. I will persist. I will reach the end of this endeavor. I will beat you. You will not beat me back. So for me, the visible support is whenever you have that picket line, you need to cross.
yeah, and I don't know if you're all seeing the news. We have about 5,000 oil members out on strike right now. And unfortunately, I know at least in one location in Kentucky, the building trades that work in this refinery have crossed the line. And our brothers and sisters, the people we work for, are out there on the picket line. Saw a video of it last night. I was gonna send it to our new media folks. And I realized there's no way how they can send it online. So yeah, I mean, you're all right. We can have a union with 100% membership of everyone in the workplace, but what if no one really visibly supports it? Because unfortunately, there are locals with that, where people think, you're the handful of top officers we elected to do all this stuff. Get this shit done. We don't want to do anything. That's not building power. That's not building a movement. So if you think about our workplace here. We're not a traditional steel worker shop, let's be honest. So how do we show our visible support for our local 36%? Yeah. Red shirt.
You can print the logo right there. I mean, it's visible.
Okay, we have our bug. What are some other, have any of you seen any other things? Have the Labor Day March, I hope you all participate in that next year. And I mean,
People you support outside of your area here, you go to help other people do other things that need help getting what they need.
a lot of that is about, I think, building community. And I think this is anecdotal, but in our world right now, people are very alienated from one another. There's a lot of distrust and division. And I'd like to think that our union, our local union, plays a very big part in building community here. I know in a lot of departments, there's a death in the family. A lot of folks will sign a card, send flowers, something like that. Little gestures, but I think they add up a lot of it. And also recently, I think were you all at the last meeting and you heard about the issue with our president, social media and all that stuff? There was talk of actions that were going to happen if that issue wasn't resolved. Not to go back into that, it was decided not to do that, but I think there was talk of a button campaign and stuff like that. So, I mean, we are our brothers and our sisters keepers here. In non-union shops, you're on your own. So anything else on?
Sabrina, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do?
Okay.
Not specifically that I will. How we work with others.
One of the most essential work of CCTV is to go out to the locals and have training that is called a building power training. And the most important point of training is to deliver the importance about having a structure, a channel where they can distribute information and communicate with each other. And we call that the text, in which they want to do action.
And RJ is the middle of the team.
Right.
So if any of you were all here during our last contract,
No.
when was that, in August or July?
It was, yeah, we did a very quick job of negotiation on contract with SRT already. You know, we bargained in tandem. SRU goes first, we go second. SRU is the staff rep out in the districts and receptionist there. They bargained their whole contract and settled before we get to bed. So what happens is we can only bargain to this point. You can never surpass what they've bargained. In the history of this union, it's never happened. Or the board change the first thing to get a call. Bullshit. Well, just as important. And we're not going to let them pretend that we're less than. But normally, you did just part of the contract. Normally, you have a contract already. There's an issue that was an error. We proving it again.
So next time a contract comes around, you're gonna be getting emails from RJ or someone on your floor will get emails from RJ. Shirt day. Get this information out to every folks in your department. What happens in a lot of places, gigantic workplaces where we have members, you can imagine how the rumor mill is flying, stuff like that. The captain helps us stay on a united page, gets rid of that disinformation, stuff like that. So I will say props to your department because building power, locals get good agreements. That program has a very big part. Back to our question though. By advocating for social and economic justice for working people, what's that mean? What's that mean for a working class person? You Yeah, I'm not going to pay attention to it, so someone else can talk. What does social and economic justice mean? To you. I'm not asking for an economic definition.
Well, economic justice is a fair and honest wage I mean, you're getting paid for, your honest day's work, so that's economic justice.
How many of you worked non-union before you came? What would justice have meant to you in your old job? Okay.
Well, when we were talking about, we were talking about sick time. I did have time. I did 24 hours and were able to take it all. So that's what you can do where you're getting time and they're checking you. You call.
It's a lot different here.
Just,
I worked at Costa Rica, got no time in your whole first year, no vacation, no sick day, nothing.
What are the 3 weeks for your first 5 years
Yeah.
under our contract?
And you had to wait 1 complete year before you could get 1 week of vacation, and you would never get any sick time because it didn't happen. You had to use your vacation.
That's what we call, in organizing, that's what we call the union difference. And there's going to be a big organizing initiative going on. And if you're interested in learning more about the union and getting involved on the ground floor, I'd encourage you to get involved in the organizing campaign or that's going to come around. But that is the union difference right there. The great benefits that we enjoy here, they were not given to us from the international. Our local has worked very hard to get those, to keep those, and to build on them. And that's the union difference.
Let me ask Randy.
Yeah, it's, we'll talk about it. There's going to be a lot of training and education coming up, so I encourage you because I think a lot of you who worked non-union before can have a good story to tell someone at the door. When they ask you, why the heck should I get involved with the union, you can tell them this is the difference it's made in my life. So, yeah, social and economic justice for working people. I mean, you all have kind of hit the head in making that difference in people's lives. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist or a Nobel in economics to know that times are tough for people all over the country. And here in this international, we have the ability to make a difference. So I hope you all will get involved in the international programs and also stuff in our local union because we still need to make that difference every day in our local. Anything else on this before we go on? What's that? What do you mean? There's no answer. It's totally discussion. It comes out. I mean, what comes out is Anthony, the attorney, will tell you that under law, whether it be the National Labor Relations Act or public sector labor law, which we don't need to get into, that stuff gets us to the table with our employer. But does getting to the table in and of itself get us a good deal? What does it take? Yeah, it takes power. And that's definition number 2. So that's power right there. So
Anthony is number 1. We all have.
So I want to take a step back for a second. This is a curriculum that has been in draft form forever. I think it was a couple of years ago when you first saw it, RJ, and it still is. Is that a good exercise to do with union members? One worth doing?
One worth doing.
I got first from Brittany. I see a nod. Wendy, Kelly, Sean, Sabrina. So this is part of a larger 3-hour curriculum called We Are Steelworkers. Hopefully we'll be able to do it someday. I'd love to do it with our local. We have a lot of great educational programs. Now I want to shift to something a little more technical. So to speak.
You have 20 minutes.
Okay. I think you're going to have the e-board come down and introduce themselves later on.
Some,
Another thing I do, our department does is steward training. And stewards, I would say, are the foot soldiers, the grunts of the labor. They are people in steelworker locals and any union local really. When a member has a problem or an issue, we encourage people to go to their stewards to try and get it resolved or to get some help. Here in our building, we have 3 stewards. There's Eric Russell on the 7th floor. I forgot what second Ellen's last name. He's at extension 2475. He works in the political department. Do all of you know Eric? He's kind of a with the tall glasses. He looks like me, only about 30 pounds lighter.
He must have been there a couple years ago. You know, they have a long time, so I'm not sure he's put it back. Well, I better work on it.
Also, on the 11th floor, there's Beth Yakapuro. She's still on 11th? She's a steward. And then there's also Bart Luce. These are our stewards in the International. If you ever got a question, if you ever get called into a meeting with a management person and you get nervous, you don't like where it's going, you might get in trouble, I'd encourage you to pull this card out and say, I'd like to talk with their representative. These are called our line guard units. Basically, under the law, through a series of Supreme Court decisions, everything like that, the Supreme Court held that union members have a right to representation during encounters with management that they feel need to discipline or change their working conditions. Now, the catch is these are not like our, what's it called when you get arrested? These aren't like your Miranda rights. Okay, our employers are not obligated to tell us, you know, you could get disciplined through this conversation, you might want to call us. It's your responsibility. I would just like to ask for representation. If one of these 3 folks aren't available, I would just say, you know, someone from the union executive board, and Chris Taylor, Patrick Young, something like that. And I mean, I think the practice around here is they would probably love to have some time to meet with them before you go back.
You can also come here and matter, and she would do so on phone.
Yeah.
And she's our.
Beyond Babin, you know, we have members, steelworkers, you know, we have members in the U.S. and Canada, Virgin Islands. 3657 our local, we have members in Minnesota, Michelle, and we have them in, I think, just about probably not every state, but Dion Babin is our grievance chair and vice president. She's based in Louisiana. This is her number here, 225-291-8226. So put one of those numbers down. Hopefully, you know, you're never in a situation like that. But if again, you know, remember, we are brothers and our sisters keepers. These are people who have put themselves out there saying, I want to represent my coworkers. So, you know, that's their job. That's what they signed up for. They're here to help us. Okay. So, one more thing. This is, I think, give you a heads up of the process and what happens when we have a grievance procedure. That can be discussed more by Patrick or someone.
We're hoping, but.
You know, a grievance is basically when something in our contract, when the international, when we call something in our contract, whether it be additional pay or vacations or discipline, we can file a complaint or also known as a grievance, saying we want you to fix this. And this just outlays the steps of that.
hold on, excuse me 1 second. Michelle is having a little trouble understanding, so we're going to be talking.
I'm sorry, Michelle.
Talking to her as well.
Okay. And I'll get you a copy of this form, Michelle. It's just on the grievance procedure. This is more for the stewards, but what will happen is the step, like, let's say you want to file a grievance over something. First of all, the steward will get the facts. What happened? What is the violation? The who, what, when, where, why stuff. Most importantly, what will it take to fix this? They get all the facts together, and then there will be a meeting probably between the steward and Dion and someone like Bob or Ginger Hartman, and they might or they might not get to the resolution on that. Are there any questions on this stuff?
I'm just gonna slide her down. That should be closer to you.
Michelle, we're gonna move you a little, see if this helps.
How's that, Michelle?
No, she can actually respond to that.
Said a great time.
Let's see about half the group right now. Hold on.
I can email it to you. I can email it. So.
There we go.
So I wrapped up a little early. That's all I wanted to talk about today. But with the time I have left, are there any questions? Like 15. Are there any questions that you all have? I might be able to help you with about anything I've talked about or anything else.
He was a preschool teacher.
I was actually a long-term substitute teacher. So I bounced around from union job to union job. I used to work for the NLRB. Then I worked for the government agency that handles labor law. I wanted to be an attorney, and then after my second week, I realized I did not want to be an attorney. Although I'm sure you love your profession very much, but I love education. I think it's I had teachers in my life who changed my life, and so I hope to do that with our members. I come from a family of steel workers and mine workers in the military. So, from a little town not too far from here, I was related to everyone. I actually asked the girls to mom, who I found out was a distant cousin. So I had to move away to find a wife I wasn't related to.
What town?
Jennertown.
Racetrack.
So that's my very long strategic path.
Okay.
Yeah. So how many of you ever tell folks that I work for the steel workers, and then they scratch their head and they say, "Oh, I didn't know there were steel mills around here."
Yeah. When you tell them that, they always think that you work for United States Steel.
Yeah.
So a bigger part of this is this curriculum is we take our full title: United Steel Paper and Forest and Rubber Manufacturing Allied Industrial Energy Service Workers International. At one point in time, when the steel workers were formed in the late 30s, we were almost 100% steel workers, people who worked in mills and also the mines where the iron ore came from. And what was happening basically over the last 70 years is that unions that formed in, say, the aluminum industry, the upholstery industry, the smelting industry, they all merged with us over the years. So a project that I have with my colleague Stephanie Dolmike, whom I think will be around noon or so, we are building a museum on the 6th floor to document our history of all the unions that came, that are now part of steel workers. Because what do you think some of our biggest locals are? What do you think our biggest locals are?
Probably no longer steel.
It's not. Not paper. Not rubber. Teacher. So there's local 8888 Norfolk, Virginia, which makes nuclear aircraft carriers. 8888 Virginia. In our neighbors to the north in Canada, we represent, I think, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 members at Toronto or Queen's University. Queen's University, and their clerical and support staff at the university. Guelph University, we also have a lot of members. So mean, we had a great organizing victory just a couple months ago, literally 2 blocks here at Point Park University, 300 adjunct professors, and we'll be doing organizing for a lot more very soon. So, there's a great handout. I'll grab some, but pass the building power academics down. That documents our history mergers. But when we talk about, we are proud in our department. We talk about how we are the steel workers, and it doesn't mean people who work in a steel mill. It's this idea of industrial unions. That if you're a working person, regardless if you work in an office or a heavy manufacturing, your best shot at job security and a good life is having a union card. Steel workers were there at the very beginning, so that's why we're very proud of these days. So that's my quick and dirty on mergers.
As far as, since you're in education, do you ever kind of, or even just about the negative conversations that could be in, like, you get into the market in the office and say, that's the one that I see the most.
I hear that all the time, and that's we have right now. We have 5,000 members out on strike. The oil workers, they earn a decent living. Part of that is because they are forced to work overtime.
Yeah.
And you do not want people working 12, 16 hours in an oil refinery. If I knew that was going on in my community, I wouldn't be out there on a weekend like a lot of our members earn very good living because they have a union that gets them that wage. And a lot of people work overtime, whether they're forced to or they just like to get the possible. So again, the negative connotations are out there, but it's our job to start. Not really.
That way,
It's a good idea.
if you hand it out to union members, when they're having conversations, you can go, this and this and this and this is like, you're kind of drawing the line, right?
Oh, yeah,
But true.
So, what are you all interested in? I mean, like you've been here 6 months, a year. What are some things that you're interested in getting involved with the local or maybe programs with the international like that?
If I want to know, if we on top of the conference schedule that are in town, so that they can go into conference. Otherwise, I would like to go to a bargaining.
So if it's health and safety.
Right.
Here's how you find out. You join those committees and are open. Who then gets those? We know when it's being scheduled. But if they notify the women,
Yeah, that's, I don't know when that's being discussed, but the committees are the lifeblood of the local union. That's where membership is engaged. It's not people who get green. Committees aren't just meant for the officers. It's meant for all of the members. So I would say in the past 20 years, one of the most dynamic committees formed in steelworkers is Aluminum Steel. They are great organizers.
thank you. I am the chair.
And the chair of the program here.
We had it Monday. Yes. It's okay. All you need to do is email them, we'll go over all that.
So if you get involved in committees, you won't learn about that stuff. Some of the other things, like there's a health and safety conference next month. I would like to go to that, but a lot of that just depends on, I'd say, your department head and whether you get clearance to go to those things. What I would say is if there's something going on and you're interested in it and you make a request, tie it into your day-to-day job.
Yeah. Why do you do that?
It's very hard to do in accounting, that's why I tell you,
You sure have that running.
Yeah.
The committee authorizes 3 total of you can never have 2 of you out at the same time if you work in the same department. So you 2 would not be able to go, but Brittany may be able to go with one of you because payroll as opposed to doing significant.
So that, yeah, committees,
Like, I still have like a bottle.
You can have, you can get everything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that, but you can pick and choose.
meetings last Thursday of every month at 12:30. We're usually on the ground floor. Or you come on up. You'll learn a lot. I will say I was intimidated as hell the first time I went through the parliamentary procedure, all that stuff. So just sit next to someone, people will tell you what's going on, what it means to make a motion, what it means to second something, all that stuff.
I'm like, all the,
You have to sit by Karen. I've been here 15 years. I first came, I didn't know that. But there are members who come all the time, happy to sit beside you, go back to her and say, here's what's going on, this is this, this is that. John, he's there. He knows his stuff.
They really do tell you everything.
Yes.
They do start to talk of every event, every motion that's coming forward. We vote on flowers. I know, that's supposed to bring it up. I know.
I wasn't gonna bring it up in the
I finally heard the backstory of flowers, and it's kind of complicated. It's kind of funny all the time.
Meetings are great. It's where you get to meet a lot of people. They only have them once a month. And so the one thing we always tell people is, just because you have shitty attendance and great attendance at your meetings doesn't mean your union isn't great or strong or anything like that.
The accounting firm, I know you can also have done. It's like grants.
I'll block it.
I know, I have friends who like this.
We get an hour for lunch, so we can figure out what we can do about.
Yeah, do they let y'all leave at 1:30 or do they make you work?
You can go whenever you want, you just have to go tomorrow.
Between 11:30 and 1:30?
Yeah, I just go.
Okay. Because they used to make us like, if I worked in payroll with Brittany, we couldn't both go at the same time. One of us had to go the first hour, one of us had to go the second. Nice if they all do that.
So, anything else? If there's nothing else, I just encourage you all to get involved. This is a great place to work. We have great jobs. I think we work on behalf of wonderful people. So, any questions, please email me. My last Lepley, my last name. I hope to see you all again around soon. Thank you for your time.
Want to take a 5-minute break?
Thanks, John.
Pizza. It's all right. The bathrooms go straight down and then go left.
Yeah.
Lunch will be coming at noon. And
And at Mark, so he's right across from me, so I heard her coordinating, and that's why I'm far stuff shelf. I'm gonna keep reading me every stuff shelf in the car.
I hope you did.
Speaking of, you have everyone has things stuff shelf.
no, you're not.
You can say it over. That's not a emergency. No, you don't have to leave.
The last time they wanted to do this, I left. I didn't know why.
Okay.
Oh, no, great. Because Howard, back in the 90s, when we had our layout rounds, when Steel first died, to keep our legal representatives, basically, we tried for free contract, for both our contracts, to bring them back in our court. And the final answer was, they could come back and learn if they would all take pay cuts. Because they would have to go to our financial contract, not an exclusive contract with their own.
Oh, so
Well,
you're
they
on a
never do
different tier.
that.
Yeah, you're on a different tier, so it's not.
So he's excluded, but they're all local union members, he's not members of 36, 57. They're also not members of SRU. So they're members of whatever local it is. A lot of them, like we talked to Dan Paul, great advocate for 37. So a lot of people don't like this. Which is great, because we really do try harder for them, and we try to do whatever they need.
Yeah, plus we're like all in the same building.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
the powers that be will not let them,
So are you a member of 36, 67?
county, and when I had to make my election, there was a local
Yeah.
in Eau Claire that was locked out. So
Yes, there's two gas levels up there and then two.
Carolyn, I'll try and bring this down later on, it's only on my face.
No, my mom does, but I think
You could go on Facebook, probably. Or you have it wireless. You go on the wireless.
Also, like Morning Sun, you could have muted from Butler. Okay.
I mean, it's the first, I moved back from LA, so like from Barntown, like living, commuting from my mom's house to the first one. What?
I work for some slipper rock, so.
Oh, okay.
You're on the farm out there.
You can take the Butler bus. to Slippery Rock,
Yeah.
Or catch the Newcastle bus at Cartwright, which is much more efficient. And
One of those things that you're coming from Grove City.
I come from Grove City, I park at Portersville and Grayville, yeah, I got a bus back, which means I get an extra hour of sleep on the way in, sleep on the way out. Yeah, compensates for the trip.
Oh, wait, I never think, sometimes I'll take Portersville just like it's up there, gas station right off before I can. Oh, wait, like, yeah. That's exactly.
Well, there's three now, at the first gas station, which is actually on Portersville, 422, which is Newcastle, has the pilot truck stop.
Yeah. Which is very cheap.
But if you go over the hill from the pilot truck stop, it's a quick.
Yes.
If it's meeting the pilot,
What are we looking at?
Allen.
These are some of our members in action last night at Refinery, Kentucky. The building trades have crossed the line at the refinery where our members work. So the booing you hear is our members at building trades folks are in buses.
So is this in Kentucky?
Yeah, that's at Catlettsburg, Kentucky, the Marathon Refinery. That's what they're dealing with right now. So Carolyn, you have an update on how it's going in
They're
Oregon?
busing in the workers?
Well,
Yeah, they kind of have.
they do.
Yeah.
You can never drive on a bus.
Yeah, you can never drive.
Well, you got the whole crew, right?
Yeah.
We had major actions all over the weekend. You remember how many?
Last weekend there was National Day of Action where at the time nine refineries that were on strike all had a plant-based rally. And, because the 11 that are on strike, we have, altogether we have 65 refineries and 200 terminals and most of them all had a plant-based rally. And there's also huge rallies in, Houston, they had one is that the show has quarter on Friday, that'll be Scott, Shop, Video, and so much.
Yeah. Yeah, just let me know.
I'm bringing it back out.
Okay. This is just from here. Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't think that's also the same for business. So basically, customers need to say there is a huge line of rust along this coil and it's like 3/4 of it and it goes the entire span and I go, okay, the contract. And photograph and get your well, that and also typically like the way they were switching everything out to Oracle, typically the way that the contract, the purchase order contract is occurring and also the amounts for stickers. So I would have to go to Oracle and drop the claim and go back into the other side of Oracle. Yeah, please. So a lot of time.
No, she said 3 5.
So losing my mind because the right, it's like three of us, we're walking out, so
Very well, how are you?
All right.
Well, we are now joined by our financial secretary, Chris from accounting, Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
And you've already met him, who is our treasurer and accountant. Patrick Young, our president, is out in California with one of the striking locals, or more than one of the striking locals, actually. He was gonna try and join us on Skype at both 11:30. But I said that we needed to connect at 25, so it could be that he'll still show up, but I don't think we should wait on Patrick, because we have our illustrious members of the executive board here with us who can carry on. Now we're gonna talk about our local, specifically bargaining and contracts. And in your package, there's information on our local that has not yet been updated. So this one, I'll give it one. The one that has welcome to the steelworkers, that's still accurate. The one with the stewards and cat team, pretty much still accurate also. I have a third one, which is a list that I didn't put in your packets because I wanted to explain it to you first. It's a list of everybody's phone numbers in the building, but this one is out of date. But it's better to have the out of date one than have none. Is my 2 cents per line. So,
Yeah.
do you have one of these?
It's not, well, you should take one of those from everybody. It's, they email it out also. They've not updated it in quite some time.
Yeah. So we put this together last year. And on the part of the local, the international really should be doing this.
Yeah, see, because I'm still in accounting. according to it.
We're not even on there.
Yeah. So this was done prior.
There is
to
an
the
unofficial directory that's floating around from 2014. I think there was some problem. You have to get so many people to approve something like that. Every district director has to be involved to check off to say, hey, this is okay, and these are my officers, and these are the people that are at them. It becomes this huge task to be able to get it to say, here's the official directory. So there's one floating around out there. If somebody wants a copy of one, I'm more than willing to email you a PDF version of an unapproved, unofficial 2014 semi-up-to-date directory.
I'd love to have it.
Yeah.
So we should email you if we want.
Yeah, sure,
Chris Taylor.
sure. I'll email
Chris,
you.
what did you want to work on?
Yeah.
What did I do?
Is this still your phone number?
I did, I did a lot of different things. I worked in dues, I worked in payroll, I did the, what's the other, the operating job. I did that, whatever they told me.
Chris, just so you know, we have Michelle Ivy.
Okay, great. Hi, Michelle. Am I like blocking the camera for you?
Probably.
So,
I don't think so. I moved it for John Muckley.
Here, I'll do
yeah, I have one of you right here.
Sorry.
Michelle
I kind of was aware of it.
texts me, she texts me.
Ah, sorry about that.
All right.
Yeah, it's your call.
Yeah, I'm blocking
So
the-
you're on.
You know, we don't really have a lot prepared for you guys. One thing I wanted to say, we kind of said we would split this stuff up and I would talk contract and she would talk to me. And Patrick is really the contract guru, and by no means am I someone that does like major interpreting of contract language. It's just, this is readable and that is not what I add to the mix for our group. So I don't want to go too in depth with stuff like that and act like I'm some great resource for that kind of thing. We do have some people that are highly capable and that is what they do. One thing I wanted to get across was that we did not have a current CBA to distribute to you guys, but we are in the process of proofreading that right now to make sure what we sat down and bargained with the international and last round negotiations is actually what's in the contract. And there have been some discrepancies already. So we're in the process of doing that. Once we do that and we give them the nod, they're going to give us printed booklets. And I think it's a pretty bland read, but it's worth knowing what's in there. And we are gonna have that, and when we do get those, we will go to the building. How do we do that way? They basically distribute for us as mail.
Yes.
That's how we've done it. So you'll be getting something, you know, in the near future. But as far as that kind of stuff goes, someone that we use as a resource catcher, of course. Beyond that, it's another person in the field that is our grievance chair. And anytime you would have something you think could be a possibility of a violation of the CBA, I would definitely contact her. She'll put you in touch with Stuart here that would be, you know, more than willing to do whatever we have to do to get your situation rectified.
I gave you 2 papers for grievance investigation. That would kind of help you know when you think there's something wrong, or if you're tracking it until you get feet on there's someone involved. This is a good read just to give you an idea of what you should know. So when you know there's a problem, you know what everyone's tracking, you know what the steps are. It just gives you a basic idea of how grievances are handled, which I never knew until I did all this stuff. So I mean, I'm a financial person. I never followed most of these.
It's all in
all the things. I
Good.
How do
realized
I turn this
how
on?
important it was
You'll
to
save
know
the day.
what we had to track.
I
And
am not
the
a
fact
good
that you should ask for some of these things. There are things that happen here.
You're
And there
contributing
are
on so many
also
levels
silly
already,
things
right?
that happen.
I know.
Fantastic. How many people's,
And it's not one person's island. But these things will help you track that.
How do we get, oh, there he is, okay, now. What?
From the company you mean? Okay,
There you are.
Oh, there he is.
Or we don't have the sound,
they,
but we have Sean from IT here.
whoa,
Oh, that's something to read.
it's like he's here.
Yeah, but well, a written one is also, but.
Talk, Patrick.
I'm gonna minimize it real quick.
2 years.
Yeah. Oh, is it only 2 years?
Oh, I know why, because I was doing more.
And that's something we find.
Yeah, because, no, not that, thing, in here, in the sound configurations, because I've done one of these screens. and I changed it.
She's one of the, yeah, she is like a
We
filter
missed it all, I
basically.
think. Yeah,
She sits right at the top.
John was doing a basic, likely, her basic super training, that was in registration.
So it's kind of good.
No, no.
I forget the
I know.
say that.
It's come new to me.
Yeah. So, he talked about, well, he gave them all. So they all have.
Humans aren't resources for people. Just the term.
The other point I gave you was who the chairs are of all of the, local union committees. You
It
can
says
have
it is.
any one. And you can come check them
How
out.
about now?
Now, yes.
Okay, you can hear me now?
And that's really a good way to get involved with the ground.
All right. But I guess the problem was on my end. There might be a little bit of background noise.
No, Patrick can never be too big. Internet connection problem.
Can you turn it up a little bit?
We're fine, right? You know, why doesn't everybody move their chair in?
Or why don't we just turn it out to the room, the computer?
Turn
When we
the
get
computer
it set up, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hey,
Amen.
Is that loud enough?
Hi.
Can you see everybody?
No,
I can see about half of the room.
there we go.
But
No
we're
worries.
just moving over. All right.
Oh,
And we have Michelle Ivy from Minnesota on
She's on the computer.
streaming.
She's streaming.
Okay. Wow, we are one of high-tech local union. Well, I want to apologize for not being there in person. As you guys probably noticed, there's a national oil strike going on, so I'm kind of in the thick of it out in Los Angeles with Local 675, which is on strike at the old BP refinery, which is now a Tesoro refinery. So I really apologize for not being there. I want to thank Chris and Pam for kind of pitch hitting, and definitely want to thank the new member committee for putting this together. I'm not sure that I know everybody who's there. You guys are a little bit blurry on my screen. So could we maybe go around the room and introduce ourselves? Let me know what department you work in and what you do.
Sabrina? Can't see you next year.
He has Sabrina. Yeah. Sabrina's here.
Okay.
Can you see Sabrina? Can you see that side?
No, he can't see it.
I can't see Sabrina.
They didn't need to see me.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Anthony Resnick, an attorney in the legal department.
Hey, Anthony.
I'm Wendy Williams. I work in accounting, doing dues for Canada.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wilson. I work in the accounting department also on the dues side.
Hi, I'm Brittany Murray. I work in accounting.
Hi, I'm Sean McGrath. I work in IS.
All right. And that's the gang's all here.
Except for
Awesome. So I know that we're well into what, 4th hour of this orientation. So I don't want to belabor things that have already been discussed. So maybe I can, if it would be the best use of our time to kick it open and see if folks have any questions about our contract or about what benefits or we're all entitled to as employees of the International Union.
One of the things that we didn't comment was that while we don't have the contract available yet from Spring Street, you can see it online on our local union website. So it's up there. Y'all know how to access the local union website? USW local LOCAL 3657.org. And you can see it.
Okay, so yeah, let me just kind of jump in and make sure that everybody knows how to get information from our local union. Obviously, hopefully somebody's told you, and I think I've seen many of you there, our meetings are the last Thursday of every month at 12:30. For the next couple of weeks, they're going to be, or next couple of months, they're going to be in the room that you're in right now. Eventually, when DeWitt and APRI move out of the lobby conference room, we'll move back down there. So it's the last Thursday of every month. We also have an email system that RJ, who many of you probably know, has been really diligent about keeping people updated via email. Is there anybody in the room who's not getting emails from the local?
Anybody that wants less?
Ivy, do you get the emails from the
Emails
local?
that you want. I also, back to the membership meeting thing, I also want to point out for Anthony, we've been making a major effort to be as inclusive as possible with our local union. And when I came in, casual employees and excluded employees were not invited to participate in the local union. That was 10 years ago. We've kind of changed the way we think about that, and we've opened up our meetings and our committees and all of our other functions to anybody who's a dues-paying member of the local, and really encourage people to participate, whether or not they're covered by the collective bargaining agreement. So you're definitely welcome to participate. We definitely would encourage you to think about plugging in whatever way makes sense for you. We also, we have a website that we post a lot of our meeting minutes and documents and updates. That's kind of a good go-to place for your summary of benefits, for your copy of your contract and things like that. The stuff that is related to our employment situation is behind a password And that's not because we were worried about the international finding out what our contract says. Hopefully they know what our contract says, although that's often very unclear. We don't want to really advertise for rank and file members out in the field what our pay and benefits look like, and certainly not for anti-union consultants. So everybody has the same password. The password is 3657 solidarity, all one word. Is there anybody who's gotten into the password protected section of the website?
Yeah.
Cool. So I encourage folks to take a look at that. That's where you can find a copy of our contract. We also have a closed Facebook group that folks who are on social media but using to communicate. I'll try to invite all of you to that, but you can find it and ask to join. And we send out text message alerts, and you can sign up to get text messages from the local on our website as well. So those are some of the ways that you can quickly, easily plug into our local union to get information about what's going on. And obviously the member of the new member committee who's greeted you and touched base with you when you came on is a resource for you as well, as are the members of the e-board, Pam, Chris, myself, Lauren Bookwood, and then our grievance chair, Deanna Babin, who's based out of Baton Rouge. Who out there has worked under a union contract before? Where do you work?
I worked for the city of Pittsburgh, so I was a member of AFSCME.
Okay. What was that experience like? Did you have any contractual problems? Did you go through contract negotiations or file any grievances?
Well, I know I personally did not, but I know it was very active with other city employees with the grievance. It was a kind of an odd collection of various different departments. I worked in IT, but it also covered like public workers. It covered like a lot of different other departments, and the problem was that the contract had nuances that really didn't cover everyone's complete job. So there was a lot of gray areas that really would come up the grievance a lot because, well, it just wasn't spelled out.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar to the situation that we have here at the USW. The work in the strategic campaigns department is very different than work in the health and safety department. It is very, very different than work in the accounting department. Each department, and then our sisters out in the field have very, very different experiences as well. We recognize that folks are coming from very different places and have very different needs. And then there's also kind of the interests and the issues that the technicians and resource techs are dealing with are in a lot of ways very different than the issues that folks in clerical job classifications are dealing with. We recognize that a lot of people have a lot of different interests and needs, and we're working hard to be in a position to address everybody's issues. So what I would say is, if there's something going on in your work area that you got a problem with, and you can't identify something that violates the contract, we've been very, very good, and we've actually been very successful at if there are problems that come up with people's work schedules, or when people are taking breaks in clerical job classifications, or people who are interested in seeking promotional opportunities. Come to a member of the grievance committee or come to a member of the executive board and let's try to get that problem addressed. And sometimes we'll use the traditional grievance process where we'll write a grievance, even if there's not a contractual violation. Other times we'll just reach out to the international and say, hey, can we sit down and talk about this problem that somebody has? And if we deal with problems early on, we've had the best success in getting them addressed in a way that makes sense for everybody, and in a way that in a way that really moves kind of our work forward and moves what we're doing forward. One thing that folks are y'all are new, is being a new employee orientation. But one thing that will come up relatively soon is folks will be interested in thinking about how you can move forward within the organization and how we can step up and do more within the organization, whether it's to seek a promotional opportunity or a raise, or just do different types of work that y'all might find more interesting and exciting. So, and that's been a thing that we've been working with a lot of folks on in the recent past, and I want to make sure that y'all are aware of some of the avenues that are available to you. Who here is in a clerical job classification, a job class 7? Okay. So you all have available to you the Pay for Knowledge program. The Pay for Knowledge program allows you to earn a 3% raise over your base pay for each Microsoft Office certification that you attain. And you can earn up to 3 of those for a total of a 9% raise. That's some real cash, a 9% raise. The Microsoft Office certification program, it's tough to get. It requires some practice and some taking classes. We're actually scheduling another round of classes right now for people who are interested in participating in that. We'll be sending around a sign-in sheet relatively soon for people to identify when they're available for classes. I know, Chris, you've taken a couple of the classes and gotten some of the raises, and so is Pam. Do you guys have anything you want to pipe in about that?
It really becomes something that's more tangible once we do start the classes. It seems like this thing that's out there, and what is it all about? How does it work? Yeah, once we get the ball rolling this year with the classes, it makes it to where you go, oh, okay, I understand what it is that they're trying to accomplish here. And then we have some tools that they have made available to us to practice test. And it becomes something that if you dedicate the time towards doing it, something you are interested in doing, it is attainable. We have people doing it. You know, so, and it is, I mean, it's real money. It makes a difference.
We had some people who were class once. Took one class, one version of classes, and did the rest by YouTube and other avenues, and still certified. Yeah.
It just takes time to dedication.
It does.
And then something else that's available for everybody, whether regardless of what job classification you're in, is our tuition assistance program. And if you're interested in taking either college classes or going to conferences or seminars or doing something like that to beef up your skill set and kind of seek a promotional opportunity, the International will pay up to $1,800 a year towards that. And it used to be, it was just college courses. You could go to take college classes. And we realized that a lot of things that we're doing, there's not a college class to teach you that. So for instance, I used the program a couple of years ago to go to a Greenpeace direct action training and learn how to rappel off the side of buildings and hang banners. There's not a college class for that, but it was something that you know, in campaign work is a useful, interesting thing to know how to do. So if there's a conference or seminar or something that you want to go to, that's available to you. And then if you're interested in taking, in pursuing some sort of promotional opportunity, you can also sit down and talk with Ginger Hartman, who works in purchasing and travel, but is kind of our staff development guru within HR, and she will she'll sit down and talk to you about your interests and what you want to do, and if you want to go get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree to help move your work forward, they've been very, very good at working with people about getting giving people even more tuition assistance, paying 2/3 or half of their tuition to get a master's degree in a field that seems really, really valuable for the USW. It's a lot cheaper for them to send somebody to get an MBA than it is to hire somebody with an MBA. Right, so things like that are definitely worth thinking about, and they're available to you. And I encourage people to take advantage of that as much as possible. Because that's really a great way to beef up our skill set, and as a local union, it helps us increase our leverage. If we've got, I think that we've got one of the smartest staffs in the labor movement, and if we keep building our skills, it just gives us more leverage to bargaining to push for further further improvements in our contract. So I see that there's lunch in the back of the room, and I know that it's dangerous to continue to talk while there's food there. So I'm going to just ask if anybody has any questions.
No. Patrick, we haven't gone through the committees. I have the list here to do it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do
But
that.
I think you might want to specifically talk about fight back.
What's that?
Might want to talk about fight back.
Okay, yeah. In addition to kind of doing the day-to-day representational work, our local union has become a pretty exciting activist hub with the steelworkers in general and within Pittsburgh. So a lot of that activism happens through the committees that we have that are up and running, and those committees are basically anybody who wants to get involved in just about any of these committees is welcome and encouraged to get involved. I know that Brittany's already stepped up and joined the Civil Rights Committee, and they're doing tons of really, really great work. Brittany, do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys are up to?
In the Civil Rights Committee, basically right now what we're trying to prepare are some actions and some items for this month that we're currently in. It is Black History Month, but also moving past the civil rights movement and the different things that have been established over the course of the past few decades, and also just broadening our spectrum into African history in general, but also bringing in the community and looking at items and things that are going on in our community right now that really could use our help. Like the Homo blockade that's coming up on February 28th, that's an action item that we have right now that we're moving forward with. Our motion was received at the last meeting, thanks guys, for us to give monetary aid to them. What we'll be doing there is also some mass incarceration training. There are a lot of frightening and disheartening statistics out there for people of color as far as mass incarceration goes. One of the biggest ones is the fact that they're currently looking at test scores for second and third graders to decide what to dictate where they go their next penitentiary, because they already have an idea that early on of how many people are going to be funneled into that system, of which, mass incarceration is just a byproduct of a privatization of a system that garners money by people. They might as well consider us cattle at this point, because we're just, put them in there, they make us money, so on and so forth. So those are a couple of things that we have going on. We also partner up with LACLA, who Guillermo Perez is actually one of their executives. So they do a lot of great work with the Latin American community here in Pittsburgh. Just a lot of really exciting stuff with reaching out to the communities, broadening the base, getting out information to people. So it's just a really good time to be a part of the Civil Rights Committee. So if anybody's interested, come on.
Awesome. running what I think is a really interesting, innovative program called Fight Back Pittsburgh. You folks have heard of Fight Back Pittsburgh?
Oh, yeah.
We basically created a workers center within the USW, and it's a associate member program, and it's basically a local union that anybody can join. And they've been very active in the Black Lives Matter movement. They've been mobilized around immigrant rights. They run a worker justice hotline for people who are not part of unions to call in with problems they're dealing with at work. They've got an intern that's doing organizing around issues facing young women in the workforce. So they meet the first Monday of every month at 6:30 in the Lobby conference room, and I think that probably the best person to talk to is Nate Kilbert, who's the vice organizing chair. He's in the legal department. If you want to get involved in that. Our Women of Steel Committee historically has been one of our most active committees. They've done a ton of stuff in the past. As many of these other committees kind of got up and running, they kind of took a hiatus because everybody was working on other stuff. But Pam has taken the lead in getting that kick started again. And I know that they've got a lot of things coming up. And that's a great hub for folks to get involved with. Pam, do you want to give a little bit of a rundown about what Women of Steel's up to?
Women of Steel has set their meeting the second Monday of every month at lunchtime. And we've set two things in motion already. Of course, the Women of Steel always run Take Your Child to Work Day, which is April 23rd. So, yeah. So we're a little behind this time. It's the fourth Thursday of April every year that it hits on. But so that's coming up and has to be set up. Barb Pugliese is taking the lead on that along with Island Craft. They're doing everything that deals with that. We're doing a chili cook-off on St. Patrick's Day in March, which will also be in the lobby. As soon as we get the flyer up and running, it'll be emailed out to everyone telling you can join in and cook chili and tea. Or if you don't like to cook chili, you can certainly bake and compete on the baker side. And what we commonly do is the objective of the chili cook-off is to raise funds, which this year will clearly go to Oil Strike Committee somewhere. We choose, the Women's Steel Committee picks where to send the money. We try to keep it fairly local or with whatever hot ticket item is going on at that point. And that's pretty much what we're into right now.
Awesome. So if folks are interested in getting involved in that, Pam is the person to talk to. We've got a committee that runs our website and our emails and our social media. If you're interested in getting involved in that, Molly Rellahan is a great person to talk to, and we'll send around kind of contact information for getting plugged into each one of these committees. If your skill set is in information technology, that might be a great committee for you to help out with. Our Health and Safety Committee has been doing a lot of work around ADA accessibility within the building and agitating around that. I know that they've got a lot of plans coming up in the near future. Barb Pugliese has been coordinating, who's in the background somewhere. Hey, Barb. He's been coordinating the fundraising and recreation committee and really taking that to the next level. We used to have just one fellowship event a year, and now Barb's doing all sorts of stuff. Do you want to give a quick recap of kind of what you guys are up to?
Right now, we're just going to start planning the picnic, our third annual picnic, and it'll probably be in August. But we haven't got the date yet, so just look for that.
So they help with when locals are on strike, organizing bucket drops to raise money. There's our annual picnic in which we have a very hotly contested cornhole competition every year. And I just want to point out that I'm the reigning champion. So I'm taking challengers, throwing down the gauntlet now. And they've really stepped up in a lot of ways to help do some of the logistics for events and trainings like this. And then we also have a new member committee, which you all should be relatively familiar with because they're the folks who set up this new employee orientation. And before Carolyn, Carolyn about 3 years ago complained to me that nobody greeted her when she came to the union, and that there was no orientation to the union. As a result of that, became the chair of our new member committee. That's kind of what happens when you identify problems with our local. Is you become the coordinator of fixing those problems. So they've done a really great job of greeting people as they come in all job classifications. So you guys being new members and just getting involved in our local and in our union have a unique perspective in terms of what people who are walking in the door experience. So that could be a great place for people to plug in and get involved as well.
And we need new members. So do sign up.
Carolyn, were you saying something?
Just a little, rally, join us.
The new member committee wants new members.
So, and John Luckman is also maintaining the ongoing task of trying to rewrite our bylaws, which may or may not ever get off the ground. We're excited about that. Hopefully that happens. I don't have a list of committees in front of me, but that's kind of the big list of the committees that are available. And then we have one additional committee that is elected as part of our local union elections, and that's our grievance committee. Those are the folks you go to if you have problems, whether it's a contractual violation or you're just pissed off about something and you want to figure out a way to get it fixed. We have 3 grievers in the building. Barb in the back, Bev Yakubaro, and Eric Russell. Our grievance chair is Dion Babin, who many of you have met at a local union meeting. She's based out of the Baton Rouge office. And Jenny Van Schindel is in District 2, and she's also a field griever. So all those folks are people you can go to if you've got problems at work and want to figure out how to get them addressed. Whether or not there's a contractual violation, we grieve all sorts of shit that's not in the contract as a means of trying to fix people's problems. So I think that's kind of the recap of what the local's all about and kind of what we have going on right now. Any questions?
Yeah, we missed 3 committees, Patrick. Rapid response.
Which is in the committee.
And scholarship.
Committee.
So the rapid response and PAC committee is kind of being coordinated by Andy Snaglio right now. Andy Snaglio and Josh Kiersey. That's a committee that has not historically had meetings and done things together, but it's generated a lot of activism. If people are interested in getting involved in either of those, talk to me or Andy, and we'll figure out how to create some space to do some of that work. And then we do have a scholarship program in our bylaws, and there's a committee that I'm not sure if it's staffed right now. I think that Lori Bookwood is definitely involved in it. That helps to communicate about and promote our scholarship program. All right, well, I will sit here, screen, and if somebody wants to come and talk to me or ask me any questions, y'all can do that. Otherwise, why don't we take a break for lunch?
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Keep on fighting the good fight.
Scholarship programs for your children. Oh, nice.
Yeah, we give away 6 $500 scholarships. I'll put the letter out in April. Only thing that has to happen is they have to be a technical or academic. It has to be approved through Paul Janus that your child's on the insurance program. And then you put your name in, and we usually have a drawing. And honestly, I think last year everybody who put their name in won a scholarship for their kids. I mean, $500 per book is an addition. Yeah, because a lot of our kids now are at a different age gap. Little ones and then older ones.
And as to the committees, when I gave you that list, I have the person who chairs that committee. You can email them if you're interested in that committee. And if you're not sure, email them anyway. Go to a meeting, see what they do. You might like it. If you don't, pick a different committee. But it's the best way to learn about the share meetings, to join the committee. I hate to tell you how many I'm on right now. I'm on the E-board, I'm on the Women in Steel, we're rebuilding the employee assistance program, I'm on there. I'm on the new member committee, I'm on the health and safety committee. But I've learned more about this building and everything else by doing that than I ever would have learned any other way.
We have a couple of additions. Becky Domike from the Education Department. You are what in our union? A guard.
Oh, I'm a guard, a guide.
A guide.
Within our local.
A local.
Within our local.
Yeah, it's really the entry level e-board position. Not on the negotiating committee, but I've taken on the directing of the or coordinating of the health and safety committee. And I'll be working with Pam on Women in Steel. I'm also I'm involved with a bunch of other stuff. Can I talk about that now or no?
We're just about winding down, so let me introduce Lori Bookwood. What
I
is
have,
you're the secretary
in committee.
And we're gonna, as our president said, the lunch is here, so the smell calls. So we'll call it to an end, but we are really interested in your evaluation of this session because it's a work in progress. So please, any suggestions that you have, something that wasn't worth the time, we should spend more time, less time, any ways to make it better.
After lunch, is it over?
Yeah.
I don't know if you touched on this, but I know this is, when I first came here, I sat by a very knowledgeable woman, Shirley. And she got me involved in the local, and 17 years later, now I'm still involved. I make sure that my kids know what we do as an organization. But the one thing that she taught me very early on was that our rank and file members out there are the ones that pay our salaries. And so for me, it's not a job, it's a way of life. And I take very seriously my job because we have our oil members out there right now that are standing on the line for us. And if it wasn't for our members, we wouldn't have a job. And you see a decline in membership, it's going to affect us directly. So I personally take great pride in the movement that we belong to and know that who pays our salaries. And I would highly recommend that you get involved because besides my girls, this is like the second most fulfilling thing in my life. I mean, it's just an amazing way of life. The members you meet out there are rank and file. I mean, it's a family, and it's a really, really great place to be, I think. Not international, I'm talking about, I mean, us as a family.
I can see you. Can you see
Come
us?
on. Come on.
I can't see you. Does anybody continue to want to talk to me?
Anybody have any further comments, questions? Anybody want to come up to my little computer and talk to Patrick?
And you can email him anything.
And you can email him and,
He doesn't get much email.
no. He's joined by Stephanie and Bookie.
Oh no.
And thank you, Patrick, for taking the time to
Thanks,
spend with our new members.
Thanks. And once again, I'm really sorry for not being there in person. Hopefully, I'll get back to Pittsburgh someday. I don't have a plane ticket home.
We never did. I told her to come back.
See you when you get here.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bon appetit, and please do send me evaluations. I didn't do a form for you to fill out. You know, you can just come up to me and tell me, you know, what worked, what didn't work, what we can make better, what would you like to see more time on, less time. Bon appetit.
I saw Brett. He had no time today to come down. So
Okay.
I figured.
Ivy, if you're still there, Ivy, hello, Ivy. You are authorized to have lunch on the local today for participating in this. And just be sure to save your receipt up to $15 for your lunch today and send it in to
Send it to
Yeah.
Lori, okay? Or you could send it to anybody, send it to
Yeah.
me, send it to Lori, okay? Bye.
I can't keep up with the emails. You just tell me where I'm supposed to be on Thursday and what time.
We'll work it out.
I do.
I think I'll do the morning, and that,
Okay.
you know,
Because usually between 7 in the morning and 10, I'm doing a news breaks and doing all our numbers. The guys still haven't.
I'll go down in the morning.
come down after 10.
After 10 is
Yeah,
good,
I'll
and
go
then
down in the
before
morning
1.
for a little while.
So you
Okay.
come in for the first hour, you do the second and third hour.
Okay, that works for me.
I think if we have 2 or 3, do we have to notify anybody? here? We all appreciate that.
I trust that. I trust that.
Otherwise, you'll just wander around.
She's one of our favorites.